The hardest thing about work isn't the work, it's the people. No matter what little thing or big thing happened to you, you do have a choice in how you respond to it. I really equate entrepreneurship to being a boxer on a roller coaster. Someone is like just gonna punch you.
So here we are.
Here we are.
Brittany B. Moore. Could you be more awesome?
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
So we've been talking before we even started rolling. And, you know, the more I get to know you, it's your story is inspiring. And there's so many lessons that shake out from your words and your experiences and really just, you know, the story arc of your life. But let's start out by talking about be more organized and move more boxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Be More Organized is a home organization and moving concierge company. It's definitely grown up a lot. I first started the company in 2011, and I would say I've pivoted more times than I can count, which I'm learning is just a daily task as an entrepreneur. It's like failure, pivot, failure, pivot. And then Move More Boxes is a newer venture in the last year or so, something I've been kind of sitting on for a couple of years. I think you find in business, as you outsource something more and more frequently, it typically often at some point is going to make sense for you to bring it in-house. And so that's really what has been born out of Move More Boxes is within our moving concierge service for clients, we only use a reusable boxes company now because the cost of time in both building boxes and breaking down boxes and purchasing boxes and hauling them off at the end for junk removal is just so timely and costly. So we're creating something that's just a lot more cost effective and efficient for clients. And so it's actually a B2B company. So our client, we really are partnering with the moving industry directly, unlike a lot of our competitors, to really, our goal is to just eradicate cardboard for the purpose that we don't need it anymore.
And that's sort of like your, you know, a core value of your organization, of your company, right? Is the sustainability. You also were voted an Austin woman to watch.
Yes.
I think in 2021.
2021.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, and you're working on a book.
Working on a book. It's author in progress, I guess, learning day by day, and still, again, same with entrepreneurship, pivoting still in some ways day by day. I feel like I learned a new insight this morning that is going to even be changing how I end the book.
Yeah, let's talk about that because one of the quotes I read about you that I found profound, simple, right? You know, it's like 3 words, but you know, because you're organizing people and you're helping people, you know, really reimagine things, right? Mm-hmm. Like the geometry of their lives. It's so much more than just like, this is how you do this. It's much more than that. And like one of your philosophies is, you know, when your clients are like, where do I even start? You tell them, you know, you start by starting. I mean, how, like, that is like it is so true in business, in life, in relationships, in all of it. So, you know, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's actually something that in a way, one of my closest friends almost came up with herself, that she always has said, start by starting.
Yeah.
And then I've kind of coined it and taken it away from her a little bit. And I'm like, well, I'm going to trademark it. So I'll give you some credit. But yeah, you know, I think in life, as I've gone through life, as I've learned, as I've experienced, as I've, I don't know, just experimented with growing things and building things, you don't always have a clear map of how it's going to turn out. And I feel like God also just loves to love just loves to like laugh at us little humans, like trying to make plans for how life is going to turn out, right? You can make a business plan, you can make these things, and not that you shouldn't, those things are good to have, right, but you're going to pivot. It's going to change. Right. And if you don't know that, like know it now and know it that's going to happen every day. And so I think a lot of times we get this like overwhelming feeling of, well, then how am I going to start? Like, how is it going to go? Like, I can't start without knowing what it's going to look
exactly.
like. And it's just, you just have to start.
And it's so easy to say that, but, you know, for entrepreneurs or dreamers, you know, troublemakers, you know, like the things that all of us are, like that whole taking that first step is the single hardest, it is the biggest impediment for entrepreneurs and new business owners and dreamers. And so your story is not just about organizing and boxes. You had a very difficult childhood, and it has largely shaped who you are and what you stand for. And
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that. And let's talk a little bit about, you know, the friend who gave you this aha moment this morning.
Yeah.
But talk about how your experience shaped you and how you approach business problem solving and all of that. And maybe, you know, advice for people who might find themselves in similar situations where they have to bootstrap it and dust it off and reemerge.
Yeah. Life is in a very glass half full way. Life is all about pain. It's just, we're all going to experience pain, whether it's a loss of a loved one, a challenging element of a company, a divorce, a sickness, a loss of some sort, grief. We're all going to go through those things. Life is just full of challenges, and building resilience, I think, is a key component to having the mindset and the characteristics of how to get through it day by day. I will say I didn't go to business school. I haven't read every amazing business book that, you know, some of the best CEOs probably have on their shelf. There's a lot I don't know and haven't learned. And kind of unknowingly, I think the one thing that life did do to me that was so challenging and painful and hurtful, but prepared me the best for being an entrepreneur, is honestly pain. I went through a lot of struggle as a kid, a lot of abuse. I never felt wanted. I never felt accepted. I never felt really safe. Like, if you go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can't really operate without safety. I never did well in school. How can I focus on studies when I don't know where I'm going to be the next evening?
Right.
I went to 5 high schools. Talk about going through a lot of hardship and pivoting and having to reintroduce yourself 5 different times at different schools, right? I mean, going through that really prepared me for entrepreneurship, though, because as we were talking before, I really equate entrepreneurship to being a boxer. You know, it's like being a boxer on a roller coaster. Right. Someone is like just going to punch you.
It is the path of most resistance, yes. Right? Like, you know, like, who chooses it? It's
well, people
hard,
don't know.
right?
And that's the thing, is I'm like, I feel like I need to tell more people what it's really like.
Right.
You
Run
know,
away.
Like, don't. There are literally days I wake up and I'm like, I wouldn't wish entrepreneurship on my worst enemy. Literally. Like, you can have my ex,
it's
but
just,
like, I would.
It's hard. It looks hard, you know?
Yeah, it's like, it is so much harder than it looks like. It's the amount of hats that you wear. It's, you know, my dad was vice president of Northrop Grumman, pretty big company. Yeah. And so I quote him a lot. One of the things that he always said is, the hardest thing about work isn't the work, it's the people. And it's so true in life. The hardest thing about relationships isn't the work you have to put into it, it's the person that you're working on it with, you know, whether it's a marriage or a friendship or a co-CEO or an employee.
Right.
People are just hard.
People are hard.
We all have
People
stuff.
kind of suck sometimes too, you know?
They do. And they all have their own shortcomings and struggles that they're facing and personal elements with their marriages or their things that then they bring to work or they bring to your conversation. And that makes it all just more challenging and more complicated. And so keeping relationships and keeping people simple is really hard. And so I think going through so much struggle as a young kid, as a teenager, as a young adult has really prepared me for, all right, like, yeah, I don't think I asked to be resilient. And I don't think it's something that you should ask for lightly because it's gonna be hard.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
Yeah.
So we talk about resilience in entrepreneurship all the time.
Yeah.
Right? What does that mean within the context? Because when I hear your journey, right, and you were talking earlier about, you're a kid with your mom in Compton looking for meth. Yeah. Right? I think that the resilient part, and you jump in here because, I'm just an observer.
Yes, please. I would love to know what you're observing.
Yeah, it's these things that happen, and a lot of entrepreneurs have stories similar to yours. It's not the act of being in Compton, doing meth. It's that you did not let that define who you are.
I think it's not the action of what happens to you so much in life as it is your response to it.
Right.
One of my best friends, who's also an author and international speaker, Jean Celestine Lakin, she is a Rwanda genocide survivor. And she saw the most gruesome of gruesome things that she both saw and happened to her. Her book is amazing, A Voice in the Darkness. But I think it goes to show that no matter what little thing or big thing happened to you, no matter where on the scale, like you do have a choice in how you respond to it. Yeah. And I think a lot of times we can get stuck in victim. We can get stuck in this happened to me and this is painful. But
how do we can, and it's easy. It's very easy to do.
And we all have those days.
And we've all done it.
We all still do that.
Nobody has not done this.
I've not escaped that. Right. I'm still in that.
So what is your secret sauce to not falling into, because you also were married to a freaking narcissist.
Yeah, right? For 7 years.
And all of that is probably related, right? Like that's
definitely.
All like a brain thing.
Oh yeah, I love studying the brain. But yes, your question, secret sauce.
More people should study the brain more, and the world would be a better place.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. We should know what this thing is inside of our bodies.
Like, we understand let's understand that what's going on there. But, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think, so yes, I have another good friend who's also a speaker and author. And I gave her a quick phone call this morning. I'm like, hey, sometimes when people ask you questions about yourself, it's like trying to read the ingredient label on the outside of the bottle, and you're in the bottle and you're like, I can't see what the ingredients list is. What does it say? And so sometimes you can't solely rely on your own self-awareness, right? You have to sometimes lean on your community to be like, hey, what is it? And so what she said to me this morning, I think is like changing my book, and I'm still processing it as I'm sitting here with you. But she's like, the secret, Brittany, because she focuses on grief and loss, and that's what her books are on, and she's a life coach, and that's what she focuses on. And she's like, you can't get through it, resilience, all of it, none of it matters. The secret sauce that you have is you are purpose-driven and you have self-worth. And then you have to have both, because you can have a purpose, but if you don't have the self-worth and the value and know who you are and know that what you bring to the table is something that someone else not just like could maybe get some value out of, but like they need it. Right. They need it. Like you were put on this earth to go through this experience so that you could talk about it and share the secret sauce with other people and help other people. Yeah. Like we talk about what gets us up in the morning, like that gets me up in the morning. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going to do something today that is going to help someone. And I feel like a little bit like that sounds a little bit like the pageant models that get up there and say world peace. But like, it really is true.
I mean,
like,
I think it's because the whole idea of purpose, live with purpose, work with, have your company have purpose. People have signs on their, at home that says, live with purpose.
yeah.
But that, like, I think as entrepreneurs and as creators, what does that mean? Right? And to me, purpose is, getting up and having an impact, right? Mm-hmm. Small ones, feeding my horses, right? Like, how do you approach that?
I think a lot of people don't know their purpose.
Right.
I would say a lot of people likely who are sitting in 9-to-5 jobs, sitting at a desk, probably sometimes ask themselves, like, what is my purpose? What is my value? Right. And trust me, don't leave your 9-to-5 job for entrepreneurship.
Right.
Stay.
Start with a side hustle.
Start with something else. But I think for me, the way that I've found my purpose is actually looking at what's painful.
Yeah.
And I think if we all actually had the guts, because it takes guts and because it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
If you have the guts to look at what's painful in your life, dissect that, get over that victimhood, and then really you'll find that you're passionate about that thing that happened to me. I couldn't even list you the multitudes of things that happened to me as a kid, like throw a dart, it happened to me, like whatever it is, like I can relate to someone on some level of pain. And if you look closely at that thing that caused you pain, you're likely going to start to feel really passionate about making sure that someone else doesn't have to experience that, or about making a change in that field, in that service, in that product, in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And then that's going to lead you to your purpose.
Right.
Or one of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like anything. It's just, you kind of have to strip it down and make yourself vulnerable and intentional to really understand those pain points that we all have. And I kind of want to go back to something you were saying earlier, because failure is a thing that happens, right?
Every day.
It happens to all of us. And, I want to get your take on failure, because all right, so there's like all these schools of entrepreneurs. You've got the Silicon Valley breed of entrepreneur, and they embrace failure, right? Yeah. It's a badge in Silicon Valley.
So what's interesting about tech, so I was talking to someone who works in engineering the other day about this versus someone who works in UI, UX design. And they're like, well, as an engineer, I have to code a million things. Like I fail 10 times an hour. Like, oh, I coded that wrong. Nope, that didn't work. Code this way. Oh, that doesn't work. Right? And versus the UI UX guy, it's like, if I do this and design this, I can just like change this color with one click. Like we all experiment with failure in different ways. And so some of us are more easily able to see it as like just a normal thing that we roll through in an hour, in a day, right? Because it's like, well, that's failure. Yeah, I mean, I do that every minute,
exactly.
Right? Where depending on your industry, maybe it's not like that for you. Like, in home organizing, I'm not failing at the organizing toothbrushes here and hairbrushes over here. Right. It's kind of hard to fail at that. Like, if you're failing at that, you're not a visual person. So my day-to-day, I would say, in my industry is, and I'm not failing at that. Now I'm not in the day-to-day of that company anymore, but I'm failing at starting processes, at integrations, at choosing the right software, at choosing the right consultant, at designing my new website right now, is doing a brand refresh. We just switched CRMs, which was extremely costly. And I built out a brand new CRM in 2 weeks. I literally pulled like 18-hour days. And I had to make that really hard decision, switching from an old CRM that cost me $20,000 last year. Like, you fail every day. And sometimes it's a failure that you don't even see coming.
Exactly.
I didn't even see that coming, that I made the wrong choice in a CRM, that it just wasn't, no matter how hard we worked, it wasn't going to work for us.
Right.
And it's like, and then all the hours and manpower that we spent building that old CRM out, it's hard. Every day is hard.
Right.
And then you add in people.
Right.
And
Super complicated.
super
humans.
complicated humans.
While we're on the topic of failure, so, one of the things that I see that holds back entrepreneurs, and maybe not you so much because you're coming from such a different life experience, but fear, right? Like fear stops people from just starting, right?
Yep.
Like what and it's the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of whatever.
Yep.
And so like
There's a lot of risk.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Because some people don't like fear. Like I actually am an adrenaline junkie and I seek it out, I like trouble. I like the risk. Like talk to me about that in your experience as an entrepreneur. Fear.
Yeah, I'm a bit more like you. I'm a little bit more of an adrenaline junkie. I'm a total tomboy, which people can like not see that sometimes because I really can be like a total girly girl on one hand, but like you saw, like I drive a truck, I have lots of guns, I live in Texas, I'm into like competitive. I saw that on
your bio about you're like some kind of sharpshooter, sniper type.
Oh my God. Did we get that on recording? Yes, I am a sniper. So I really love a skeet shooting and clays.
So you're not a sniper,
sporting
you're
clays.
A skeet shooter. Okay.
Yes.
Just for clarification.
Yes, clarification. I'm not a sniper. But no, I've had motorcycles. I like rock climbing. Like I'm very much an adrenaline person and a total tomboy, and I love taking risks.
Yeah,
for sure. Mind you, I think as you get older and we logically, learn more, read more books, we have a better understanding of taking more calculated risks. But sometimes we still have to throw that book out the window. Like sometimes you just have to take a risk. Yeah. And I'm absolutely in that game right now. I'm still taking massive risks.
You are.
Every day. And is this going to fail as a single mom with a 4-year-old? Am I going to be able to make rent? I'm putting all of my money and everything into a new venture right now. And it is just, you deal with the fear of failure every day. And I don't think it's ever something that is going to go away. It's just like this little voice that you get better at saying, nope.
Yeah.
For me, I'm also a Christian and I believe in God, and I also know that like my purpose-driven like saying or the thing that drives my purpose, the multiple things, is I know what God has me on this earth to do. And I know Be More Organized is one of them. And I know Move More Boxes is one of them. And my next venture and my next book is absolutely one of them. And I have no doubt that there's going to be a lot of tumultuous ups and downs. That boxer on a what is it? What are those things called? The roller coaster?
Roller coaster.
A boxer. Literally, that is like, I think
a boxer best, on a roller coaster.
Yeah, like that's the best vision of understanding of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Is a boxer on a roller coaster. You are going to get hit all the time. There's going to be fear of the next big drop. And you're not going to always know when it's coming because sometimes you're blindfolded.
Yeah.
And that's what it feels like. It is hard. It is a struggle every day. And so to get through that fear, for me, it's just, I go back to my purpose. Like, this is what I'm here to do. This is going to lead to an even better testimony of how I got here. And it's going to encourage someone else all the more one day. And you just have to keep fighting through it.
Yeah. And don't you think, sorry, I don't mean to ask you a leading
question
please. Here, but
ask
like the startups that I've worked with and the entrepreneurs, like that fear of failure, the fear of just like trying, something new, once you push through that fear, right, whatever it is in life and business, starting something, whatever, I just really believe that on the other side of that fear is success. Yeah. Right. If you even if it's on like some kind of little tiny micro scale, I just feel like if you have words of advice, and I think your story is incredibly inspiring, but if you were talking to an entrepreneur right now and they were, the fear of failure was out, like what words of it besides run away, right?
Yeah.
What advice do you have for, entrepreneurs who are at the starting gate and just not launching?
Yeah. So right before I started putting Move More boxes out there, I had the logo, I had like everything down, and I was like, okay, what if this doesn't work? Because it was going to mean a big upfront investment, getting all these boxes shipped, dealing with all of our manufacturers overseas, learning about ports and licenses at ports, and all there's so many things you don't know that you don't know. I had to decide, okay, this is scary. I'm risking a lot of money. I'm risking going into a whole new venture. I'm funding this whole thing. I'm bootstrapping this whole thing. I'm a single mom. I have a kid. I have no family here. I'm on my own, right? I'm just on my own. And that's how it feels as an entrepreneur. You're alone,
Right.
especially if you're a solo entrepreneur, which like, if you can do it with someone, y'all do it with someone. Like,
good advice.
Don't choose the right person though. We know people are hard.
Yeah.
It's very lonely at the top, and it's a lot to get through. But for me, I remember I had that moment. I had crushing fear.
Yeah.
And so I really had to look at it as I made a list of like, what's going to happen if I don't do this?
Right.
Whether it's someone else is going to come along and do it, or would I be okay just doing this and sitting in this box than the rest of my life, and not trying this, and then not trying this company over here or this idea over here. And I was like, no, I don't think I can live with that.
Right.
I really can't live with not knowing what happens if I don't try.
Right.
And so that was enough for me to be like, all right, well, anytime that fear comes back, that's the answer.
Yeah.
And so I think if you find your answer to the fear, then every day when it comes back, because it comes back every day,
yeah, it does.
knocking again, you can say, no, like I'm okay with this risk. And if I fail, like it's still going to be okay. It's not ideal, but you file for bankruptcy if you have to. You get someone to loan you and you get out of the mess that you got yourself in. 62%, I think, of companies that after they get VC funding still fail, right? There's failure everywhere. People fail all the time. Don't be so scared of it.
Yeah.
You're going to get through it. Marriages fail all the time, and people get remarried.
Yeah.
Things fail all the time, and life still works out okay.
And I think that our lives are infinitely richer for the things that we try and explore, versus that never leaving that little box that you're talking
I have
about.
a speech coming up that I'm giving at a conference in like 2 months. Of course, I woke up in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m. the other day, and I was just like writing my speech in my bed. So I grabbed Otter, my favorite friend, and started ottering my speech as I walked downstairs to my computer and then start typing it. And my speech is largely on my failures.
Yeah.
I'm like, if there's anything I can get up here and talk to you about that you could walk away hopefully learning something and not making the same mistakes, is my failures. So I'm going to stand up here and vulnerably tell you all the times I screwed up.
Yeah.
And what I maybe could have done differently, or what I learned from it, because your path might be that you still have to walk the same failure that I did.
Right.
For whatever reason, that's the path God has you on. And that's just the path of your testimony and what you're going to write your book on one day. And without that lived experience, you couldn't write that book.
Right.
Or you couldn't one day talk to that person that you're going to meet. And so I think you don't get lived experience without experiencing it, and you don't experience life without pain and without failure.
I think the other thing is too, you're a motorcycle rider, I'm a motorcycle rider, and one of my favorite analogies in business, and it has to do with fear. I'm not just going off on a riff here, like falling off the edge. When you get on a motorcycle, you are assuming a lot of risk. You are very vulnerable, but it's also the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
If you are riding, a super twisty road and you spot a pothole, right? You see a big giant pothole and you stare at it. What's going to happen?
You're going to hit it.
You're going to hit the pothole.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about entrepreneurs and fear. Like if you keep focusing on the fear and the failure, you're going to fall in that pothole, y'all.
Yeah.
Look ahead at the horizon, know where you're going,